Professor Stiglitz, welcome to the program.
Nice to be here.
What happens to the global economy if we can't get inflation under control?
Well, I'm not sure inflation is the most significant problem that we have. I mean, we're facing a crisis in our democracy. We're facing climate change. To me, these are far more important issues than inflation. We will get inflation under control. I worry that if we raise the interest rates too fast and too much, we will have a global recession. And, paying more for food is hard. Not having a job at all is even harder.
You have said that you think interest rates have to go up because they've been at artificial lows. Is that correct?
That's right. I mean, one has to be careful about the magnitude and speed. The thing I worry about interest rates is in some dimensions they can be counterproductive. So the question here is to get the right balance in terms of interest rates. It will be necessary to raise them. The question, as I said, is how much and how fast.
So we shouldn't obsess on interest rates as the single lever.
Exactly.
Our official inflation target is 2 to 3%. Is that figure too low? I mean, will it require too much pain to the economy to reach that target?
Well, first let me say, where did that number 2 to 3% come from? It was pulled out of the thin air. There was no scientific basis. It's now become a convention that it's accepted. But in fact, economic research argues that when the economy is going through a transformation, and we're going through a transformation, a green economy, a digital economy, post-COVID-19 economy, you want to have probably a higher rate of target for your inflation.
Would you care to put a number on what you think that inflation target should be?
It should be higher. And
by what level of magnitude? What order of magnitude?
Well, I certainly think that there is no danger in having inflation at 4 or 5%, possibly even higher than that, for a short period of time. One doesn't want to have runaway inflation, but there's very little evidence that going up to 4 or 5% will lead to runaway inflation. Economists talk about anchoring. The evidence that there'll be runaway inflation is just not there. To put another way, a word, a language that's sometimes used is inflation is like an alcoholic. You fall off the wagon, and then once that happens, you just can't stop. It gets worse and worse. No evidence on that. Moreover, one of the important things to do is to protect especially middle-income, lower-income people from the effects of inflation. And one of the ways you could do that is to have a windfall profits tax on those who are making so much profits out of the current circumstances, the energy companies, some of the food exporters, and use that revenue to help those who are really suffering from the current inflation.
Of course, the idea of windfall profit tax is highly controversial. Do you think that's a message that this government will listen to?
Well, I hope they will. I think it's a really important message. You don't have to call it a tax. I know the government has
There's a bad history here.
Because they say no new taxes. Yes. We've heard that kind of rhetoric before. This can be a one-time levy, a severance fee. There are many other names. But the important point is that the government plays a very important role in our society, and to play the important roles that it needs to play, it needs revenues.
So as late as October last year, the head of the Australian Reserve Bank said that rates wouldn't rise before 2024, he said. So obviously the result of that was that a number of people kept doubling down on their mortgages. How big a misjudgment was that statement in your view?
Well, one of the things is, there's an old song, "The future's not ours to see," something like that. Economists are normally two-handed economists. They say on the one hand and on the other. The fact is, who could have anticipated the pandemic? Who could have anticipated the Russian invasion of Ukraine? These, macroeconomics always has to be aware of contingencies that you don't count on. Who could have foreseen the election of Trump or the insurrection on January 6th?
If the head of the Federal Reserve had made a comment like that, would he have kept his job, do you think?
I think it is better for public figures to admit the limits of our knowledge than to pretend that they know more than they do.
What sort of tools could the government call on? I think you've spoken a lot about the importance of getting more women, for example, into work. Are those the sorts of policies that could make a difference along with the move on interest rates?
Oh, very much so. Because, right now in the United States, unemployment is low. Employment, by the way, is also low. And that's partly because we have a problem with health. So better health would help. But in the short run, the most important thing is getting women into the labor force and better immigration policy.
Let me just ask you this. You said before that no one could have predicted the nature of the post-pandemic recovery and Ukraine and the effect on energy prices, the effect on gas prices. Is it also the case that these frequent episodes of financial volatility are something we're just going to have to get used to?
Yes, but we can do better. I think one of the things that we've learned is that the last 35 years, 40 years of neoliberalism led to an economy which is more volatile, less resilient. We created an economy that actually doesn't respond to these kinds of events and actually creates events that are destabilizing.
What will your message be to a relatively young, new Treasurer of Australia?
The responsibility of the Treasurer is really to make sure that the budget, the money, is used to improve the well-being of the people of Australia. That's what money is about. That's what the economy is about. The economy is supposed to serve the people, not the people the economy. And we sometimes get that confused.
Thank you very much indeed, Professor Stiglitz.
Thank you.